celebrations are back. I like it.
Moving on to Sunday Night Football, you got to love when a much-hyped game lives up to its billing. Steelers and Ravens, and give it up for billing. Pittsburgh edged Baltimore 39-38. Big Ben threw for 506 yards, 213 of them to Antonio Brown. And Le'Veon Bell added 3 touchdowns as the Steelers improved to 11-2. Here's Ben Roethlisberger after the game.
You never know. We'll do whatever it takes to win a football game, whether it's winning by 30 or 3. Really, we just want to win a football game.
Nick, is the Steelers' offense good enough to overcome their problems on defense?
Before I answer it, I just want to say how weird it is to me that we're asking that question, because the Steelers' defense is what had carried them through the first 5-6 games of the season. But what we saw yesterday, and we've seen this in Carolina when Luke Kuechly's out, in Dallas when Sean Lee's out. What we saw yesterday was the Steelers' defense without Ryan Shazier, their star inside linebacker, all of us.
And without their starting corners, too.
Correct. But the point that I'm making is how much slower they looked just in his specific replacements. We've seen the last few weeks without their corners. Joe Hayden's been out almost a month now with the broken leg. But the Shazier difference to me was glaring. Joe Hayden, they're going to get back. Shazier, they're not going to get back at least this season. And so it's interesting to me that we're in this position that it's those same old Steelers and that it's going to have to be a dominant offense. But to answer the question, yes, I think the offense can do it, because I think the last few months, 2 months, this is shown to be the best offense in the league. You have a quarterback playing as well as almost any quarterback in the league. You have a wide receiver playing better than any wide receiver in the league.
Yep.
And Le'Veon Bell, who even though his yards per carry aren't elite right now, he does everything for you. So, yes, I do think the offense is good enough. It's not a position I think Pittsburgh thought they were going to be in.
I totally disagree with you. And the reason why is because I've played on a couple of teams that were offensive dominant teams. And when you get a bad day offensively, you end up losing. If you get a bad day defensively, you can still hang in there. If you're a defensive dominated team, you don't have a great day, you can still win. But if you're an offensive dominated team, if they didn't play great last night, they would have lost. And it's hard to play great offensive football. Look at New England when they went undefeated. It just took one bad half.
Right.
I don't care how explosive you are. If you look at all the greatest, the highest scoring teams, look at how many of them won a Super Bowl. And if you look at those numbers, it would be very discouraging if you were hoping on that. If you were hoping to say, oh, this Pittsburgh Steelers offense is better than some of the greatest offense. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So it only takes one bad half. So for me, I don't have a lot of confidence based on my history. And I'm concerned about the defense of Pittsburgh. You can't give up 250 yards rushing. Like anyone who's just a little bit better than Baltimore beats Pittsburgh last night. I mean, they almost lost to Cincinnati the week before that.
They were down 17-0 in that game.
You know, so for me to think that, like, this offense is going to be consistent enough, and I don't believe those holes in the defense are going to get any better. Ryan Shearer's not coming back to play. And his overall ability to play first and second and third down, because he's one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL, that can't be replaced. Now, the thing that I like about Pittsburgh, you're talking about Antonio with his big game, 11 for 200, but Jesse James had 10 catches. L. Bell had 9 catches. So for me, I'm glad there's not a huge disparity between Antonio and the rest of the group, because you need other people picking up this slack. Now, he is the best, and you're going to feed him a lot, but you need these other players. So do I think Pittsburgh offense is special? No. Do I think they're special, more special than some of the offenses I've seen the last 20, 30 years? No, I don't. Because I don't believe their offensive line is as good as some of those teams.
And I would agree with you, this offense is not, because you mentioned the highest scoring offenses and how rarely they win the Super Bowl. The 07 Pats, or in the last year's Falcons, the 98 Vikings. Like, we know the list a lot. In fact, of the top 6 highest scoring teams, the only one that I think did win the Super Bowl was the Greatest Show on Turf, Rams. So I don't think this Steelers offense is that. I'm not trying to compare it to the all-time great offenses. The point I'm making is the offense good enough to carry it until, because they're going to get their corners back. Now, Shazier's loss, I mentioned it. Shazier's loss is an enormous one, and we are seeing...
That's running attack.
Right.
See, so my thing is, I don't think they're going to be able to get off the field. And if they can't get off the field defensively, they can't dominate time of possession. If they can't dominate time of possession, that defense stays on the field, then they're really going to be taking advantage.
Does it concern you guys at all that there are so many close games that they're just eking out? They have 7 games already this season that they've won by a touchdown or less. That's not that sustainable. You already mentioned in Cincinnati game, they were down 17-0. They gave up 38 points to the Ravens behind Joe Flacco. Like, this is a team where, yes, they have so many offensive weapons, and yet week after week we keep seeing them barely
Jenna,
winning.
this is where if you're predicting that Pittsburgh is going to be in the Super Bowl, you say, oh, that's just good teams. They find a way to win. But if you look at it from a perspective, is this the type of consistency, or you're from a neutral, like you don't care, which I am, you're like, that's not the kind of consistency that I would want. But, Jenna, all of us don't come from a neutral perspective. Jenna, all of us don't come from that planet. So it's really hard to not look at it and be like, how can I maybe utilize the story?
It's not. You don't have to utilize anything. They're 11-2. Who are the teams that have been more consistent than Pittsburgh this year, in your opinion?
Not New England.
Okay.
Philadelphia.
Is that the
Minnesota?
You think Minnesota's been more consistent than
Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And with the backup.
Okay, I mean,
And with a tougher schedule.
So at most, we're at 3 teams? At most, right?
Yeah, well, what else? Who else are we comparing the best teams in the league with,
Okay,
Nick?
well, no. As long as we're all in agreement. Because
So let's just make the proclamation. You know something, guys? Next to the in the dictionary of consistency, a picture of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
Oh,
but,
okay. So like the argument is not real.
No, it's not that it's not real, CC. It's that with the Steelers, we seem to, for some reason, we have
The
found...
Steelers in Carolina. We didn't make it up. This is who they are.
Okay, well, I agree with you on Carolina. We see it every week with Carolina. With Pittsburgh, we see that... I understand that they've had a lot of close games. They've, I think, won 4 of their last 5 games with a field goal at the end. I get that. And Boswell's been amazing. We talked about it before the show.
It can go either way very easily.
But remember 2 weeks ago when we talked about, the Steelers are talking about New England. That could bite them. Well, they played an incredibly physical game against Cincinnati. They had a comeback win. Juju was suspended in it. Shazier's lost for the year. Then they go play Baltimore. Cece, do Baltimore and Pittsburgh, no matter how good either team is, do they play close every year? Is that true? Right? Like, that's not a consistency thing. And so now they get to New England 11-2. So have they been dominant? Have they been blowing teams out? No, I'm not going to say that.
Nick, how did the Bengals do yesterday?
I think they got crushed.
Oh, really?
They got crushed.
Oh, but that was the same team. They got crushed by who?
They were playing a terrible team. We talked about it. The Bears.
The Bengals got crushed by the Bears 7 days after playing Pittsburgh. That they almost lost to Pittsburgh almost lost that game. Right? So, no problem. That's the consistency that we don't think is sustainable. Right there.
I agree. And I see your point, because you could look at this team and say, yeah, but this team grinds it out and they will always find a way to win. But when you get into the postseason, you don't want a team that's just going to barely find a way to win. Don't you want a team that's going to walk in and dominate and beat the teams you should beat?
I want a team that's going to have the 1 seed. And right now, Pittsburgh's the favorite to have the 1 seed.
Oh, we just talked about a team in the segment before that's got the 1 seed in Philadelphia.
If Big Ben goes down for the year, Cece, don't act like it's the same thing.
No, you said, I just want the team with the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's the 1 seed.
Okay, let me add an addendum. The team with the 1 seed.
You can't add an addendum to the contract after you signed it.
Cece,
you got to read it, man.
It was an implicit part of it. The team with the 1 seed and has a quarterback with both ACLs.
Let me tell you something. You are a raggedy lawyer.
Raggedy lawyer.
Yes.
Where did we hear raggedy last week? Where did that come from?
Can Dak carry the Cowboys to the playoffs? That's next.
LeVar Ball.
On First Things First.
Yes, team's raggedy.